Welcome to Shadowed Tales Archive. Tonight's story is titled, The Hollow Below. Let the shadows speak.
Part 1, Welcome Home. I hadn't seen the house in 23 years. It looked smaller than I remembered, like a dollhouse left out in the sun too long. The paint had faded to a sickly beige, and the big bay window where I once watched summer thunderstorms was now clouded with grime. But it was still mine. I stood in the driveway with my husband, Eric, the air thick with the hum of cicadas and the distant smell of cut grass. Our moving truck hadn't arrived yet, so it was just us and the boxes we'd crammed into the back of our SUV. In the house, my childhood home. "You okay?" Eric asked, balancing a lamp under one arm and a grocery bag in the other. "Yeah, I lied. Just memories." He gave me a half smile and walked toward the front door. I followed, my steps slowing as we passed the side of the house, where a dark, rectangular scar cut across the foundation. The old basement window. Boarded up now, nailed shut like a wound no one wanted to look at. Inside, the air was still. Not stale, not musty. Just waiting. We had no furniture yet, so we threw down sleeping bags in the living room and ordered pizza. The place was eerily intact, like my parents had stepped out for groceries and never came back. The same wallpaper, same kitchen linoleum. I half expected to see my mother standing at the sink, humming along with the radio. That night I couldn't sleep. The cicadas had gone quiet. Even Eric's breathing was too soft to fill the silence. So I got up and wandered the house. The floor creaked in all the right places. The hallway light flickered as it always had. I paused outside the master bedroom, the room that was once my parents' and now ours. But something had changed. To the left of the bathroom door, there was another door I didn't recognize. Narrow, painted over in a slightly darker beige. No knob, just a thick bolt near the top and a line of small metal vents near the bottom. "What the hell?" I whispered. I leaned closer, placing my palm against the door. It was cold. From the other side came a faint sound. Not a voice, not movement. A hum, like someone breathing. Part 2, The Locked Door. By morning, I'd almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. The extra door, the strange humming, even the cold under my hand. But when I passed the hallway again, it was still there. Just sitting there like it had always been. Waiting. I stared at it for a long moment. Something about it unsettled me deeply, and not in a haunted house horror movie kind of way. It felt personal, like it was mine, like it had always been mine. "Eric," I called. "Can you come look at something?" He came around the corner with a cup of coffee and a toothbrush in his mouth. "What's up?" I pointed to the door. His brow furrowed. "Huh, that's weird. I didn't notice it yesterday." "You didn't?" I asked a little too quickly. He shrugged. "Old house. Maybe it was always here and we just glossed over it." I didn't believe that. Not for a second. "There's no knob," I said, tapping the bolt. "And these vents, they're too low. Like it was made for something small." Eric leaned in and knocked on it gently. The sound echoed hollow. "Creepy," he muttered. "Is it a closet or something?" "Maybe. I don't know. I'll check the blueprint folder later, see if it's on any of the old plans." He kissed my forehead, then went back to the kitchen to finish breakfast. I stood alone, staring at that door, not sure if I wanted answers or if I just needed to pretend it wasn't there. That night, I dreamed of voices beneath the floor. Whispers in a language I almost understood. Cold air brushing across my face like spiderwebs. A heavy breathing behind the walls that matched the rise and fall of my chest. When I woke up, I was on the hallway floor, right in front of the door. The next few days blurred together. The moving truck arrived, bringing with it our furniture, dishes, and baby supplies. Yes, baby supplies. I was 3 months pregnant, and Eric had been glowing with excitement ever since we got the news. He kept talking about setting up a nursery. I kept wondering what the hell was behind that door. I tried ignoring it. I really did. I buried myself in arranging furniture, unpacking boxes, hanging photos. But every time I passed the hallway, my eyes drifted back to the door. And each time I swore I heard something on the other side. Breathing, scraping, like long nails against drywall. Slow, deliberate. One night I pressed my ear to it again. No sound. But when I pulled back, I saw something. A fingerprint. In dust. On the inside of the vent. Eric wasn't nearly as concerned as I was. "You're pregnant, babe," he said gently. "Your senses are heightened, your dreams are vivid. It's normal. The house is just old and weird." He meant well, but he didn't understand. This wasn't just pregnancy paranoia. I knew this door didn't belong. And I knew, on some level, that whatever was behind it did. 2 weeks later, the house started turning against us. It began with the lights, flickering in the hallway even after we replaced the bulbs. Then came the drafts, cold winds that snaked through the vents no matter how tightly we sealed the windows. Then the whispering, low just under the range of hearing, like the house was thinking, waiting. One night I heard it again, clearly this time, when I passed the door to use the bathroom. A voice, childlike, singing, "Hollow, hollow under the floor. Knock on the door and we'll ask for more." I ran back to bed, heart hammering in my chest. Eric was snoring softly, unaware of the song echoing inside my skull. I didn't sleep again that night. The final straw came when I found the old photograph. I was going through my childhood boxes in the attic, searching for baby clothes my mother might have saved, when I found a crumpled envelope tucked into an old children's book. It had my name on it. Inside was a faded photo. Me, maybe 5 years old, sitting on the hallway floor, next to the door. Same bolt, same vents, same peeling paint. But in the photo, the door was open, just a crack. And in that shadowy space, something was watching me. Not clearly, just a shape. Tall, impossibly thin, like the outline of a man whose limbs had been stretched and bent at the wrong angles. I felt bile rise in my throat. On the back of the photo, in my mother's handwriting, it said, "Don't let her remember. Seal it again." When I confronted Eric about it, he brushed it off again. "Photoshop," he joked, though his voice was thin. "Maybe your mom was messing with you. Families have secrets, right?" I showed him the bolt, the vents, the finger-smudged dust. I showed him the song, now scrawled faintly in chalk near the floorboards beneath the door. His face paled. "We should get someone out here," he muttered. "A contractor or someone." But I was already dialing another number. The next morning, a locksmith came by. He stared at the door like it was a joke. "Never seen a setup like this," he said. "You sure you want this opened?" I nodded. Eric didn't. He stayed silent, arms folded, jaw tight. The locksmith removed the bolt with some effort. Then he unscrewed the vent, revealing a narrow metal handle behind it. He hesitated, then pulled. The door creaked open slowly. A rush of air spilled into the hallway. Damp, musty, like old leaves and mildew. Behind the door was a staircase, stone, worn smooth in the middle like something, or someone, had used it for a very long time. I leaned forward. The humming was louder now, deeper, pulsing like a heartbeat. Eric grabbed my arm. "Let's just close it, please." But it was too late. From the dark below, a whisper curled up toward us like smoke. It wasn't a voice, it was a memory. Part 3, What I Left Behind. We didn't go down that night. After the locksmith left, muttering something about bad energy, Eric screwed the door shut again, using heavy-duty wood screws and sliding our heaviest dresser in front of it. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. Whatever was down there didn't belong in this house, but it had always been here. The next day, Eric left for a business trip. Just 2 nights, he said. Just a short tech convention up in Springfield. He kissed me goodbye, promised he'd be back before the weekend, and drove off with the same anxious glance at the hallway I'd seen in the mirror. I was alone again. Just me and the baby growing inside me. And the door. I tried to distract myself, laundry, reading, calling my sister, but I kept catching myself standing in the hallway, staring at the edges of the dresser, listening. I heard it that night. Something crawling. Not footsteps, not paws, fingers dragging across wood. At 2:11 a.m., I woke up to a loud bang. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. My heart was pounding before I even stepped out of bed. The dresser was tipped over. The door was open, not wide, just enough for me to hear breathing. What? Labored, like lungs that hadn't worked in decades. I didn't go near it. I locked myself in the bedroom and waited until sunrise. That morning, I went digging through the attic again. I didn't know what I was looking for. Maybe more photos, a journal, anything that might explain why there was a sealed stairwell in the house I grew up in, one I had no memory of. I found a shoebox labeled Elsbeth in messy cursive. Inside were drawings, dozens of them, crayon sketches, mostly stick figures, always 2. One with pigtails and one much taller with impossibly long fingers and lines around its mouth like stitches. Some pages had names. Me. Whisper Man. My hands trembled as I flipped through the drawings. One page in particular made my stomach twist. A little girl sleeping in bed with long arms reaching out from beneath the floorboards. The arms were marked in red crayon. The vein tipped with black claws. At the bottom, in childish writing, "He lives in the cold. He says my bones sound like bells." I couldn't breathe. I knew this handwriting was mine. I spent the day cleaning obsessively, anything to stay away from that hallway. But every time I walked past, I caught glimpses. The door cracked an inch wider. A long shadow curling along the floorboards. Scratches in the wood like something was pacing just inside. By midnight, the whispers had returned. But this time they weren't just whispers. They were words, soft just behind my ear. "Elsbeth, you came back to me." I ran. Out the front door into the cold night. I stood in the middle of the yard, barefoot and shaking, not sure whether to scream or call someone. The stars overhead felt unfamiliar. Watching, I heard the front door creak behind me. A slow, patient moan. I turned. The hallway light was on, and at the far end of it, just inside the open door, a hand. Long gray, fingers like dead twigs, dragging a single nail across the wall as it slowly pulled back into the dark. I didn't sleep. I sat in my car in the driveway until morning. When Eric called around 7 a.m., I tried to sound normal. I didn't succeed. "I think it's getting stronger," I whispered. "It knows I'm here. It keeps calling me Elsbeth." Eric was silent for a few seconds. "Who's Elsbeth?" "I don't know," I said, but I was lying. Somewhere deep down I did know. That evening I opened the door. I didn't want to, but I couldn't stop myself. There was something under my skin now. Some itching pressure at the base of my spine, whispering you were meant to return. The hallway was cold as I approached. I moved the dresser, slowly, carefully. The door stood ajar like it had been waiting. The stairs disappeared into darkness below, the air thick with the scent of earth and mildew and something older. I gripped the flashlight. My legs trembled, one step at a time. Down, down, down. The basement was huge, far bigger than it should have been. The floor plan of the house didn't make sense anymore. The space was curved, almost like a cavern carved into the earth itself. Roots clung to the ceiling. Old beams bent under invisible weight. It smelled like rotten iron. And at the center of the room, on a bed of bones, stood a cradle, wooden, rocking gently. Empty. I approached slowly, my heart thudding in my ears. Inside the cradle was a doll, hand-stitched, thread for eyes, mouth sewn shut, one arm torn off. Around its neck was a paper tag. Elsbeth. Behind me, something whispered, "You left me alone." I turned, but there was nothing there. Only the dark, the stone, the cradle. But the whisper came again, this time closer, inside me. "You promised me you'd stay." I dropped the flashlight. The beam flickered wildly, dancing across the walls. For a moment, it landed on something, tall, skeletal, wrapped in torn white linen like burial shrouds. Its head cocked at an unnatural angle, face hidden behind a veil of black lace. Long fingers extended toward me, each tipped with yellow, curling nails. It didn't move, but I felt it smile. I ran. I didn't care about the stairs or the door or the cold. I scrambled out, slamming the door shut behind me, bracing it with everything I could drag in front of it, furniture, boxes, my own weight if needed. But the whisper followed me, through the vents, through the floor, through the walls. "You promised me children." Part 4. What we forget remembers us. I didn't leave the house the next day. I wanted to. God, I wanted to run. But something had shifted, not just in the basement, but in me. The whispers didn't stop. They bled through the vents like static, sometimes forming words, sometimes just breathing, but always there. Eric called twice. I didn't answer. He texted once. "You okay? Let me know. I'll drive home tonight if I need to." I stared at the screen until it dimmed. No, he couldn't come back here. Not yet. Not until I figured out what the hell this thing wanted from me. That night, the dreams started again. But they weren't dreams. Not really. I was in the house, but it wasn't our house. The wallpaper was green with flower prints, not the beige we painted. The light fixtures were older. The air smelled like tobacco and baby powder. I was shorter, smaller. I heard humming from below, the song. A lullaby with no melody. Then someone called my name. Not Elsbeth, not Beth. Ellie. A soft, loving voice. Woman. Young. Not my mother. I turned in the dream and saw a figure descending the stairs. White dress. Bare feet. Hair falling over her shoulders like silk soaked in ink. But no face. Just skin. Pale and smooth where her eyes, nose, and mouth should have been. And yet she smiled. I woke up screaming. The door to the hallway was open again. The dresser had been shoved aside. I hadn't touched it. The next day, I found a box behind the furnace in the garage. It wasn't there before. I was sure of it. Wrapped in plastic. Labeled in the same scratchy handwriting as the drawings in the attic. Property of Elsbeth. Do not burn. Inside was a cassette recorder, still dusty, still warm. I pressed play. A voice crackled to life. My voice, but younger. No older than 6 or 7. He plays the violin with his mouth, the voice said calmly. His hands are too sharp to hold it. Pause. A shaky inhale. I don't like the room below the stairs. He says I was born there, but I wasn't. Was I? Then silence, and then softly. He likes it when I cry. He says it makes my eyes sound prettier. I dropped the recorder. I needed answers, real ones. So I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years. My Aunt Corinne, my mother's sister, the only other person who had ever lived in this house besides us. She picked up on the second ring. Her voice was dry, measured, like someone who hadn't spoken in weeks. "You're in the house, aren't you?" I froze. "How did you know?" "I told your mother never to bring you back there," she said. But she didn't listen. She always thought she could outsmart him. "Who is he?" I asked. "What is he?" Silence. Then, "He's the one you forget, because that's how he lives." I didn't understand. She continued, voice shaking slightly. "He was here before the house, before the foundation. He doesn't live in walls, Elsbeth. He is the walls." I felt dizzy. The name Elsbeth didn't even sound foreign anymore, just old. "I don't remember any of this," I whispered. "You're not supposed to," Corinne said. "That's the only way he lets children grow up. They forget. But sometimes he remembers them first." I finished. She didn't deny it. That night the lights went out. All of them. The breaker wouldn't reset. The hallway was darker than I'd ever seen it, like it swallowed light. I could hear things moving in it, soft dragging, the occasional click of nails against wood, and the voice, not whispering now, speaking. "You left me, Elsbeth. You walked away, but I was so gentle. I waited. I never took what you didn't give. I ran to the bathroom and locked the door, but the vent was right there, on the wall, and behind it something breathed, heavy. What? Then a single long finger poked through the slats, yellow nail, cracked skin, twitching like it was feeling for something. I screamed until my throat burned. When it finally withdrew, it left behind 3 letters scratched into the wall. Stay. By morning, the vent was clean. No scratches, no dust, but the message was still there, inside me. I tried packing. I really did. But every time I zipped the suitcase, I'd find it empty again, or moved to the other room, or unzipped. I'd put keys in my pocket only to find them floating in the sink. My phone would die at 100%. My emails would disappear as I typed them. The house wasn't letting me leave. Or maybe he wasn't. That afternoon I heard something new. A lullaby, sung by a child. I followed it even though I shouldn't have. Even though my body screamed at me to stop. Down the hallway, past the broken light, back to the door. Still open. The cradle was gone. In its place, a chair, wooden, facing the wall. A child sat in it. Back to me. Pale arms, bare feet swinging, and long black hair that reached the floor. My mouth went dry. Josie? The girl stopped swinging. She turned her head slowly. The face wasn't a child's. It was mine. But from years ago. 7, maybe 8. And the mouth opened far too wide. She smiled and said, "He likes it better when we're quiet." Part 5. Hollowing. I didn't sleep again after seeing her. The little girl with my face, my voice, sitting in that chair like she was waiting for her next appointment with the dark. She didn't move when I backed away, didn't scream, didn't vanish. She just watched, like a memory too old to burn. I shut the door and pushed the dresser back in front of it. I didn't care how many times it had moved on its own. I needed the illusion that I had control, that I still lived here and not that thing. But I could feel it now, even in daylight, in every wall and floorboard, in the water running from the faucets and the wind tapping the windows. It wasn't just under the house anymore. It was in it. I called Eric again. This time he picked up immediately. "Jesus, Beth, are you okay? You haven't answered me for 2 days." I didn't know what to say. What could I say? "Hey honey, the house is haunted by a thing I might have invented when I was 5, and it's trying to take me back like some kind of sentimental demon dad." So instead I whispered, "I don't think I'm alone." Silence. Did someone break in? He asked, voice tight. Do I need to call the cops? No, it's not someone. It's the basement. He exhaled like he'd heard this before. Beth. No, listen to me. I saw her. A version of me. A child. She spoke. She knew him. Him who? You don't believe me, I muttered. You think I'm losing it. There was a pause. I think you're scared, and pregnant, and alone in a place full of bad memories. And yeah, maybe your mind's playing tricks on you. But it wasn't, and I could prove it. So I told him about the photo, the recorder, the basement that didn't follow architectural logic, the whispering, the drawings. His silence lasted too long. You still there? I'm coming home, he said finally. Tonight. I don't care if it's late. That evening the girl moved. I didn't see her do it, but when I passed the hallway, there she was, standing in the center of the hall, facing me, bare feet, black hair covering her face, and in her hands she held the doll from the cradle, the one labeled Elsbeth. Its mouth had been unsewn. Thread lay tangled across the floor like veins ripped from a throat. I didn't move, neither did she. Not until she tilted her head and I heard her voice, no longer mine, but his. He doesn't like when you lie. The hallway light burst with a snap. Everything went dark. When I turned on my flashlight, she was gone. Eric came home at 2:03 a.m. I ran into his arms like a child. I didn't even care if he believed me anymore. I just needed someone human. He looked tired, but his eyes were clear. And when I told him everything, he didn't flinch. He just said, "Show me." We opened the basement door together. This time I didn't shake. This time I didn't feel like prey. I felt like someone marching back into a dream she'd woken up from halfway through. The stairs groaned under our feet. The air was colder than it had ever been, and the space had changed. The walls weren't stone anymore. They were fleshy, damp, breathing. Roots hung like tendons. The ceiling bulged and twitched. Eric gagged. Jesus, what the hell is this? I don't know, I whispered, but it's not just a basement. It's something else. A space between spaces, a memory made physical, a wound that never scabbed. In the center of the room was the chair again, but it wasn't empty. A woman sat in it, hair black as oil, skin paper white, mouth a jagged grin of split lips and broken teeth. She cradled something in her arms, a bundle of cloth, moving. When she looked up, I saw it. Her face was mine. Older, wasted, hollowed out like a jack-o'-lantern after Halloween. She said in my voice, "You brought him back, Ellie. He missed you." Eric backed away. "What the hell is going on?" he shouted. "Who the fuck is that?" I reached for him, but the ground shifted beneath us. The walls groaned, roots snapped, and from behind the chair, he emerged. Not a man, not a ghost. Something in between. Tall, impossibly tall. Skin stretched like wax. A face made of lines and slits. No eyes, just black sockets weeping tar. His hands, too many fingers, curled like a spider made of nails. He moved without sound, but his voice dripped into my mind like hot water down my spine. "We were so good together, Elsbeth. You smiled so brightly in the dark." Eric screamed, "We have to go. Now." But I couldn't move. The girl behind the chair, me but not me, stood up. She held out the doll. The string mouth moved. "He kept your name safe. Now it's time to give it back." Eric grabbed my hand, pulled me hard. We sprinted for the stairs, the air thick like wet cloth. Behind us, the voice howled, "You promised me the child." We slammed the basement door, locked it, nailed it, screwed the dresser back into place. Eric paced the room, running his hands through his hair. "What the hell is that thing?" he gasped. "What is it?" "I don't know," I said, "but it knows me." He looked at me like I was breaking, and maybe I was, because the truth was beginning to click into place, bit by horrifying bit. I had lived with him before, not in some other life, not in metaphor, in this house, as a child, and I had played with him, fed him stories, whispers, blood, and then I forgot, because forgetting was the only way to be free. But now I remembered, and he remembered me. Part 6. Promises Made. I didn't sleep, neither did Eric. We sat on the living room floor, backs against the wall, the dresser barricading the door across from us like it would matter. He kept the hammer in his lap. I held the old recorder like it was a relic from another life. Every few minutes we heard something on the other side of the wall. Knocking, sometimes scraping. Once a voice, soft and wet and patient. "You know what I want, Ellie?" "I think it remembers everything," I whispered. Eric didn't answer. His hands were shaking. By dawn, the whispering stopped. I made coffee we didn't drink. We sat in silence, surrounded by half-packed boxes and empty baby bottles we'd never used. The nursery door stayed closed. Neither of us spoke about it, but we knew we weren't putting anything back in there. It was time to tell him the truth, or what little I understood of it. So I showed Eric the tapes, the drawings, the photograph of me as a child beside the half-open door. I showed him the tag that had once hung around the doll's neck. "Elsbeth, that's not your name," he said slowly. "It was," I said, "once." I told him about Aunt Corinne, about the conversation, about what she said, about how he only lets you go if you forget. "And now you remember," he said. I nodded. I didn't tell him about the game we used to play. Not yet. Not about the way I used to sit at the vent in the floor, whispering secrets to the dark, or how it whispered back. Not about the rhyme, or the blood. Not yet. By afternoon, the air in the house had changed again. Heavy, like fog only we could feel. The lights still didn't work. The mirrors were dull. All our electronics had died. Phones, laptop, even the microwave. Time itself felt bent. We'd glance at the clock and see the same number twice. 2:22, 3:33, 4:44. Like the house was blinking. At sunset, the girl returned. She stood at the edge of the hallway, doll in her hands, mouth sewn shut again. Her eyes were empty. Not white, not black. Just missing. She tilted her head, raised a hand, and pointed to my stomach. I felt something move. Not the baby. Something else. Like fingers brushing from inside. Eric saw it too. "Jesus Christ, what does it want from you?" he whispered. But I already knew. It wanted the same thing it had always wanted. My attention, my trust, my promises. That night, I returned to the attic. There had to be more. A missing page, a clue, a weapon, and I found it, buried under floorboards, behind a loose plank beneath a chest of old blankets. A child's notebook, torn, molded, pages stuck together, but legible. My handwriting, or hers. Rules of the game. He comes only when it's quiet. He likes stories best. Sad ones. Don't ask him what he looks like. Never lie. He hates liars. If you forget the game, he waits. If you remember, you have to play again. The last page was smeared in crayon and something darker. A sketch of a baby, crying in a cradle. Beneath it, scrawled in jagged, panic script. He says the baby already knows his name. I collapsed to the floor. My chest felt like it was filled with stones. This wasn't just about me anymore. He wasn't going to wait. Eric found me there an hour later, still holding the notebook. "We need to get out," he said. I shook my head. "We can't." He raised his voice. "Beth, listen to me. I remember." My voice cracked. "And it doesn't matter. Once you remember, he owns you." "Then what do we do?" he snapped. I stood up, slowly. "We play the game." The basement door opened by itself that night. We didn't touch it, didn't even hear the latch turn. We just turned the corner and it was open, waiting. The light inside flickered like candlelight, and a voice rose from the dark. Not his, mine. "Once upon a time, there was a girl who lived above the hollow." Eric tried to stop me, but I was already walking, barefoot. Each step downward felt like I was shrinking, unbecoming, returning. The space below had changed again. No longer stone, no longer flesh. Now it was a playroom. Walls painted pastel blue, toy chest in the corner, ragged stuffed animals, a rocking horse with rusted springs. At the center, a circle drawn in chalk. Inside it, the doll, thread mouth, button eyes, and a second chair, empty, waiting. He stood behind it, not monstrous, not skeletal. This time he wore a child's birthday hat, paper, tilted on his long head. His voice was quiet, measured. "Do you remember your part?" I nodded. Eric stood at the stairs, paralyzed. "I never meant to leave you," I whispered. His hands folded behind his back, nails tapping together like teeth. "But you did. I was just a child. You promised me stories, and then you forgot. You replaced me." His voice cracked. Something hurt in it. I stepped into the circle, sat in the chair, picked up the doll. "I'll tell you a story," I said. "One more, then we're even. Stories are forever, Elsbeth." "I know." He knelt in front of me, too tall to fit. Bones creaked like wind chimes as he bent. His breath stank of milk gone sour. Then begin. Part 7. The first game. "Then begin," he said again, folding himself like a puppet onto the floor in front of me. His limbs bent too many times, his head tilted too far. The doll sat in my lap, its mouth still sewn tight. Eric stood frozen at the top of the stairs, like someone watching their wife walk into traffic. I looked at the figure across from me, the thing that had haunted my childhood, the thing that lived in the hollow below, and I began. "Once upon a time, there was a girl with 2 names. She lived in a big house with quiet rooms and grown-ups who fought through walls. She was alone a lot. She played pretend the way lonely children do. She gave things names. The floor became a sea. The shadows were dragons. The space beneath the vent." I paused. The thing in front of me grinned wider. Was a friend. His voice slid across the chalk like frost. "You named me." I nodded. "I called you Mr. Hollows." He laughed. It wasn't a cruel laugh. It was fond. "You told me secrets. I had no one else to tell." I remembered the way I'd lie on the carpet floor, whispering into the slats, how the air would respond, a gust of cold in summer, a tug on my hair when I cried, how it began with stories, fairy tales, made up things. But over time, I ran out of imagination, so I started giving him real things, like my fears, and memories, and eventually, blood. I looked down at the doll, unthreaded, its mouth open now. "Do you remember what I gave you?" I asked. "You gave me the world. You gave me yourself. And then you left." I remembered that too. The last day. The one I'd buried under 20 years of forgetting. It was raining. Mom was yelling on the phone. Boxes stacked by the door. She'd finally decided to leave. We were going to move out of the house, away from the echoes, the mold, the bad dreams that made her cry in her sleep. I ran upstairs to say goodbye. I opened the vent and whispered one final story. I told him I was leaving, that I wouldn't be coming back. He didn't scream. He didn't beg. He said one word: forget. And I did. Like a door slammed shut in my mind. In front of me, he leaned closer. His breath cracked glass in my ears. You promised you'd stay. I was a child. You're still a child. Every adult is just a scared child pretending better. The chalk circle beneath me pulsed. The doll moved slightly. I held it tighter. There's a baby now, I said. He didn't ask for this. He's mine if you don't finish the story. My heart dropped. Eric took a step down the stairs. Beth, what's going on? Mr. Hollows turned his head without moving the rest of his body. He shouldn't be here. His fingers twitched. The walls groaned. No, I screamed. Leave him alone. Then finish it. I took a breath. The doll's eyes glistened. The chalk bled at the edges. The girl with 2 names broke her promise, I said. She left him behind, but she didn't know he would stay hungry. He slept beneath her old life, waiting, growing, learning how to make dreams real. He learned her scent, her blood, her name. When she came back, pregnant and hollow, he smiled. Eric's voice rang out. What is he? Mr. Hollows didn't look at him. He was staring at me. Tell him. So I did. He's the echo of everything I forgot, I said. He's the story I stopped telling, the grief I never dealt with, the fear I swallowed as a girl and fed until it became flesh. I am memory that does not forgive, he whispered, and I'm the one who gave you life. The air shifted. He hissed, then give me the ending. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the thread from the doll's mouth, held it up. I'm not giving you anything else. I wrapped the thread around my finger and looked at the doll. I'm not 7 anymore. I don't need to play, and I don't need to be forgiven. Mr. Hollows rose to his full height. He scraped the ceiling, bones clicking like wind chimes in a hurricane. Then I will take the child. The lights went out. The chalk circle glowed red. The doll screamed, a high, childlike screech that pierced every part of me. Eric rushed forward, but the stairs melted beneath his feet. I stood. I stepped outside the circle, faced the thing I had once called friend. You forgot one rule, I said. Which? I'm the one who ends the story, and I did something I hadn't done in decades. I lied. I told him I forgave him. I told him I would come back. I told him I'd bring him more stories, that I'd stay. Forever. He smiled. The chalk faded. The doll curled in on itself. The lights returned. The stairs reformed. Eric pulled me into his arms as the hollow behind us shrank, sealed itself, with one final whisper. Don't forget me again. Part 8. Remember me? We didn't talk on the drive. Eric just kept his hands tight on the wheel, eyes forward, knuckles pale. Every time I turned to look at him, I saw fear sitting in the corners of his expression. Fear he didn't know how to name yet. The house grew smaller in the rearview mirror, swallowed by morning fog. Still I felt it, a whisper in my bones, like something had been left open. We checked into a hotel that night. Eric insisted we call someone. Anyone, a priest, a doctor, a reporter, an exorcist. He didn't care what label we put on it as long as we did something. But I wasn't ready to speak. I sat in the hotel bathtub with the water cold around my legs, staring at the drain. Somewhere beneath it I imagined soil, roots, hollow spaces, and beneath those, him. I kept hearing that last sentence. Don't forget me again. I had lied, and I had won, right? That night, I dreamed of the doll again. It was floating, not in water, in air, spinning slowly, its mouth sewn tight again. But this time, it wasn't in the basement. It was in the nursery, ours, the one Eric and I had painted soft green. I watched the crib creak open even though no one touched it. And from under the mattress, a long white arm reached out, gently, caressing the edge like a pianist preparing to play. I woke up screaming. Eric grabbed me, whispered reassurances I couldn't hear, because the sheets were wet, not with sweat, with dirt, black sticky earth. The next morning we found scratches on the hotel walls, low to the ground, like a child had been dragging broken nails across the wallpaper. 4 words were etched near the mini fridge. Stories are still owed. Eric wanted to run, change our names, move to Alaska, get rid of our phones, burn the house to the ground. I told him it wouldn't help. You can't outrun something that lives in memory, especially not when that memory lives inside you. We went to see my Aunt Corinne. She didn't open the door at first, not until I said my name, my real name, Elsbeth. She cracked the door wide enough to see her face, and I knew immediately that she'd lied too. The same shadow was behind her eyes, the same weight on her shoulders. Inside she made us tea, poured it without a word. The house smelled of lavender and mothballs. "You made it out," she said at last. I nodded. For now. Corinne looked at my stomach. I was starting to show. "You bargained." I lied. She raised an eyebrow. "That's worse." "I know." Eric shifted in his seat. "What is it? What is he?" Corinne sipped her tea slowly, then said, "It's not a he. Not really. Not in the way we understand gender or shape or purpose. It's a story," I said softly. She nodded. "Exactly. One we tell ourselves when we're young. One that listens." Eric frowned. "So we just, what? Keep lying to it? Hope it doesn't notice?" Corinne's expression darkened. "No, Eric. Stories always notice, especially the ones that grow hungry." We left her house before sunset. She hugged me at the door tighter than I expected, then whispered, "If it comes back, don't offer it the child. Offer you. Again." 3 weeks passed. No knocks, no whispers, no dreams. We tried to act normal. Baby shopping, ultrasounds, registry planning. But I felt it behind everything. A weight, a pulse, like the space beneath reality was swelling. Then one night, while folding baby clothes, I found something. At the bottom of the drawer we hadn't touched yet. A crayon drawing, fresh, on hotel stationery. A small girl with black hair, sitting on a chair. And behind her, a tall, featureless shape, written in red crayon beneath it. We never finished. That night I went to the bathroom, turned on the sink, watched the water run, and whispered, "One last story, just one." The light above me flickered, and from the drain I heard a giggle. I returned to the house the next morning, alone. Eric didn't know. He wouldn't have let me. I walked through the front door like I was stepping into my own grave. The air was stale. Nothing had changed, and yet everything had. There were no sounds, but the silence was aware. The hallway light blinked once, then stayed on. The basement door was open. I went down. This time there was no chair, no doll, no drawings, just a mirror, standing upright in the middle of the space. I walked toward it and saw myself, pregnant, pale, hollow-eyed, and behind me, him. He leaned down and placed a hand on my shoulder. In the reflection only. I didn't feel it, but I saw it. "You lied." "I did. You're going to do it again." I didn't answer, but not yet. I turned around. Nothing there. Just dust. Just cold. Just me. Back in the mirror, something had changed. The reflection wasn't mine anymore. It was the girl again, Elsbeth, and in her arms the doll, smiling now, unsewn. A new voice echoed around me. Not his, not mine, but the baby's. Not in words, in sound. A faint cooing, warped and slowed, like a lullaby played backward. And from somewhere far below the basement, I heard something waking, something hungry. I had broken the rules. I had promised to stay, and now I remembered. As I stood in the hollow below once more, I knew this wasn't the end of the story. It never is, because the stories we feed, they feed us back, and some stories are always listening.
And that was tonight's tale from the Shadowed Tales archive. If it left a mark on your mind, if the silence feels heavier now, then the story did what it was meant to do. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the darkness. New stories are always on their way. Until then, keep the lights low and the doors locked.